Call to order the meeting of the mayor and council, special meeting of March 2nd, 2022. I don't have a copy of the compliance. This meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act by notification to the Star Ledger, to the record and the news, correct? Town news.
Yes.
And
Would you like me to read it, Mayor? I have it if you
that
need
would
it.
be so much of a help. Thank you.
Okay. This meeting complies with the Open Public Meeting Act by notification via this February 17, 2022 sunshine notice containing the time, date, and access information to the town news and the record, and by posting of same on the municipal bulletin board and borough website, and filing a notice of the same with the municipal clerk.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastide?
Here.
Councilman Kanigo?
Here.
Council President Kaufman?
Here.
Councilwoman Kinsella is currently absent. Councilwoman Malalari?
Here.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen?
Here.
Mayor Papaleo?
Here. Now, I believe we need to open to the public, correct?
Correct.
Could I have a motion to second to open to the public?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're now open to the public.
Okay, so Neil, if you have a question, raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak. Does not look like there are any questions right now.
All right, then. Could I have a motion and second to close to the public?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstention? Hearing none, we are closed to the public. Okay, so there have been two requests to move to the front of the queue. One by our rec director, Carolyn Baldanza, and one by Stuart Heisinger. Both have some conflicts in their schedule.
Can I
Yes.
just make one quick statement first?
Sure.
I just wanted to note for everyone, in the front of the book on the summary page, there's a number for annual increase for average resident, and it's showing $69.39 expected for 2022. Just wanted to point out that that number has been thrown off by a property that got recategorized. It was incorrectly categorized as residential when it was not. If you look at the page, you'll see that the percent increase in 2020 and 2021 was 2.64% and 2.58%. In both of those years, the impact per resident was about $97. And this year, the percent increase we're at right now, and obviously we're not done yet, is 2.79%. So just wanted to point out that for the average resident with a $395,000 house, who last year paid $3,775 in municipal taxes, which is our portion excluding county and Board of Ed. The increase this year, 2.79 times that is $105. So we're not done yet, but
Wait, Michelle, with the incorrect data. So actually they paid less the year before and the year before that because it was incorrectly calculated. This year it's correctly calculated.
Chris, is that? I don't think that's.
That is correct. It was an error that it was in there before. So what you're telling the public is that we misinformed them in the two previous years that they were being charged approximately $100 when they weren't. And this year we have it correct. Is that not correct, Chris?
Yeah, the average residential house was overstated. I don't know how far back it goes. I haven't spoken to the assessor. We did identify it last year. I don't know how many years prior to that particular condo association was assessed as residential or included on the residential portion as far as their classification was concerned. But the reason why the number looks different is because the average residential value is now lower, because when you have one parcel that's valued at 14 million, it's an outlier. It skews everything up a little bit.
So we misstated to previous year's taxpayers, but not this year. This year it is correct.
The year-over-year difference is correct
Yes.
because the previous year is overstated.
Yes, that's correct. That's my understanding too.
Okay.
So we finally removed an error that was in the calculation. The calculation runs true now. So that means in previous years, even though we told the public that the increase of the mean house or the average house was more, 96.9 and 97.11 and 128.5 going back 3 years, it was actually less. But the calculation was only caught last year. If I do blow my own horn, it was caught by me. And now it rings true. Is that not correct?
Yes, correct. The average value that we're basing this off of now does not include the $14 million condo association anymore. So
Which it shouldn't have in the past, correct?
Correct. So you now have a true mean value, true average value of the average residential household.
Correct. Okay. All right, Lizette, I don't know if you want to call on Stu or Carolyn first, but take it away.
Yes, Stu made the request first, so he could go on. His the purpose of his attendance was to provide an explanation on the capital budget request for the radios as well as the passenger van.
Stu, you have to unmute yourself. Mr. Heisinger, Stu, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Welcome,
good.
Stu.
I would like to answer any questions that you might have.
Does any member of council wish to ask a question of our OEM director?
I think there was a question about Jason Melito's, there was something about the bus. Wasn't there a question about the bus?
It was actually about a van.
A van rather, yeah.
That I believe was in the plan and that Jason was going to use, and there was a whole discussion about that, but the council said that they had questions that they wanted answered by the OEM. Stu, Lizette, where was the van?
Okay.
I believe it was under.
It was under administration, other.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I will address that. I just wasn't sure where your concerns were. Jason
Stu, we
and I
lost.
have talked about it. As far as OEM is concerned, our single hole in the OEM operation is that we have no way to transport people. Jason and I have gone through this on several of our storms, and it's always been a source of aggravation. So we both agree that we need to get something better for transporting people. The van that we currently have, quote, needs a CDL driver, and that creates a whole host of problems. What we thought would be a better way to do it is to get a much less expensive van that we could have a regular person drive that doesn't need a CDL. And not only would we be able to use it for an emergency, but it would also be available to the townspeople for going back and forth to the library, to take people to the doctors, to the drugstores, and we would be able to easily provide services for all of our citizens. So we thought that was a great idea. I spoke to him Sunday about it, and his only thing was he would like to put in the van a lift so that we could take somebody that was handicapped. And that, you know, we don't need the bus. Let's sell it. Let's get rid of it. We did put some money in for a new van, something like maybe one of the Chrysler vans or a Chevy 1500 van or something like that with 7 or 8 passengers. We can't go to 15 because then you get into the CDL license. We don't charge people, so that doesn't require CDL. Everything that I have found so far allows us to do that van purchase and use it in the town without having to have a CDL license. We might want to check with somebody that's more familiar with the motor vehicle registration, but I went on the site with motor vehicles today, and I couldn't find anything that put us into the CDL category if we followed that plan. The last thing on that is I'm just kind of a frugal kind of a guy. I don't see any reason why we couldn't look for a nice 2-year, 3-year-old van and use that rather than spending the money to buy a brand new one. Now, today's prices, used vans probably cost as much as a new one if you can get them. But anyway, that would be my thought as a way to save money. Any other questions? Did I leave anything out?
So Stu, the council right now is considering not buying a new or used this year and putting it off to next year's budget because this year's capital budget is very big. Do you have any comment in that regard?
Well, we have nothing to transport our people. I guess that's really a financial decision. The need's not going to go away. I don't think it's a whole lot of money, but you guys work the financial thing. That's your bailiwick. That's not mine. I'm just putting it out there that it's one of those things that I believe that we have a real need for. And I think other people in the services agree that it would be a help.
Hey, Councilwoman Bastide.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Stu. Thank you for joining us and that explanation. I just want to make sure I understand.
You're welcome.
The period of time in which you don't have a vehicle to transport people is during emergencies when CDL drivers are deployed to do other things. Is that correct? Is that the explanation? Currently, we do have a senior bus to transport people during non-emergency situations, right? To their doctors and.
I don't know that we have. Yeah, I don't know that we have CDL.
Was that
available? That's a problem.
We do have a driver for the senior bus program.
Okay, all right. So we are still providing that service when seniors ask for it.
Correct.
Right. So my understanding was that
it's cutting in and out. So
my understanding was that this request would allow us to transport people during emergencies when our CDL drivers might not be available to drive that vehicle, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Ken Krausheimer.
Yeah, maybe sorry, I'm driving back from Long Island, so that's maybe why my video is not working. But I just had a question. What's the amount of people that we drive? So if you were to reduce the van, understanding the CDL problem because that's everywhere. But the other question was, if you're driving an average of 15 or 20 people a day, does a 8 or 9 passenger van, and by the time you put the ramp in, it becomes less of a passenger van. Does that hurt our service to provide? You know, whether it's daily, weekly, I don't know what your ridership is, but that was my only concern, is that if you downgrade a van to a van, by the time you put the ramp in, you lose 3 or 4 seats. Does that hurt us for providing a service that we're already doing with the bigger bus?
Okay, Jason or Lizette, if you could address that.
So right now, thank you, Mayor. Right now we have, yes, the senior passenger, the actual bus. What's going to happen is the way we look at it, we also have a Expedition right now that is being used. It's the old administrator's vehicle as the backup to the bus. So what's eventually going to happen is once we plan to get the van with the lift gate, which would be a little more money, it'd go up to about $65,000 to install that. That would be the primary transportation unit, with the bus being the secondary if that ever had to go down for service. So your question is pretty much, so the expedition's almost on its last leg. So this would replace that.
Yeah, but that wasn't his question. His question was, what is the current ridership? How many people does it carry on any given day simultaneously?
It ranges from 8 to 12, but it's in different locations. So if the bus was still here or if the van was here, they can make those differences off of that. So if you needed the extra room, you would take the bus. If you didn't, you would take the van.
Okay. Ken, does that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, no, that's good. I just wanted to make sure if we buy this thing that we're covering our people with the amount of requests to be driven.
Okay. Any other question from any member of council? All right. Does council wish to reconsider for this year, or does council wish to leave it 2023 proposed capital budget?
I have a question, Ms. Mayor, just
Sure.
on that. Jason, you said that the expedition that is there to serve this purpose, right? And you said that it's almost in its last legs. Is it reasonable to assume that it could be pushed until next year, given that we still have it and it is still running?
Yes, this could be pushed to next year. There's nothing wrong with the actual truck part. It just can't tow anything anymore. The hitch is gone, so it can't be used as fire. It is getting up there in miles. It is a 1997 actually, but it's still roadworthy, and we can definitely push this off. I also just want to talk to Stu more about this before we actually purchase it. And plus, this year you're not going to get this van with the ADA ramp in it or lift in the back anyway. It's going to take, with the way vehicles are coming in now anyway, you're looking a year out easily for this van. Even though they might have them in stock, you're not going to lift gates, ramps, everything else. It's going to take a while. So, I mean, waiting until next year, we could definitely do that.
Okay, and if I may, Mr. Mayor, and a follow-up, is that 40,000 includes the ramp? Because I remember the cost that we went through to outfit the bus with the plexiglass when the COVID was intense. So is that 40,000 includes the ramp?
No,
Okay.
no, the ramp would be, because it's got to be certified. So it's got to go to Alliance Bus. So the ramp would be probably, by the time we order this, probably about another 25,000, to be honest with you. By the time you do all the safety regulations with all the new, I guess, guards and shields in the bus for individual riders and all that stuff. So.
So Jason, so the figure shouldn't be 40,000. It should be changed to 65,000 for next year.
To be safe, I would say 65. If it comes in under and everything goes down, then, you know, it's a win-win. But right now, that's what they're going for.
Yeah, a new one is not going to be anything less than that.
All right. Dario, I saw your hand. Councilman Kanigo, I don't know if you wish to chime in.
As I think Jason just told us that it can wait a year, and it's a lot more than we were even being asked for a few minutes ago. So I think we have to wait a year and let Jason and Mr. Heinzinger just work it out between themselves as to what they're looking for, and then come back to us next year with a plan.
I do think it's an idea, and I definitely a good idea, and I definitely think it needs to be replaced. I think we could just hold off a year to do that.
Okay.
I'd agree with Councilman Kanigo on waiting until next year.
Well, it's very simple. Is there any motion to move it back to this year? If there's not, then we would just move forward and thank Stu for coming in. Hearing none, we'll leave it where it is in 2023's budget, but we will increase it to 65,000. Stu, thank you for, is there any other questions from our OEM? Michelle.
I just had one question.
There's no other questions that I have.
Nope.
However, I'd like to take this
Hold up, Stu.
second to thank Chris for his help in our planning.
I just had a question about the emergency supplies. I saw that line item was going up to 5,000 for this year. I was wondering why. That was line item 20125252172.
The emergency supplies and the P card are kind of one and the same thing. I'm not sure how we should handle that from a budgetary standpoint. The $5,000 number is our guess for things that we might have to purchase in the event of an emergency that's unforeseen. We have the P card, which has to have a backup of X number of dollars, and $5,000 would be good. So those two things, that's one $5,000 event. If we can spend it on emergencies or just as a backup for the P card, that would satisfy the need.
So,
Is that clear to
do we need,
everyone?
do we need both, or is one enough?
I'm sorry, it's breaking up on my computer.
Do we need both of those, or is one enough?
No, just one. One $5,000 amount
Okay,
to cover any emergencies. But somehow it has to be related to the P card, so it satisfies that financial requirement.
okay, so,
Chris, am I on that?
Yeah, right. I mean, right now there's only one $5,000
Chris.
budget line for the emergency supplies, which is the account that anything that's purchased on the P card is charged to. You know, that's a dollar amount that is plus and minus, right? I mean, if you know, looking at the sheet, you can see you spent over 6,000 in 2020, and then it was about 1,800 in 2021. So it's an emergency line more than anything. Some years you might not need it at all.
Exactly.
okay, so it's only one line, not two?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, my comment before was thank you, Chris, for your help and assistance in putting together our forms and the information so we could submit them to FEMA. We really appreciate your help.
My pleasure.
All right, Stu, thank you for coming tonight, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, Lizette.
So next up is our recreation director to go through the capital items for that department.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn. Just waiting for the screen. I don't see the screen updating.
You want Chris to move to your section, right?
Right, yes, please.
Just give him a moment. He'll be there.
Sorry, I had my it paused. It didn't update. We should be set now.
All right. Okay, so the first item was the lightning detection system. This is a system that is it's 10 years old. As we know, with technology, it doesn't last forever because it gets outdated. Many of the components this year were failing, so we definitely need to replace that this year. For those who are not familiar with the system, we have in the firehouse, number one is the main base is in there, and it speaks to all our siren stations, which we have at Memorial Park, KBG, Roosevelt School, and Cherry Hill. So we have 4 siren stations. So when it detects lightning in the area, it sends out a siren so that people know that there's lightning's been detected. Also, it has a notification system that our coaches and league commissioners are registered for. So they get those notifications via text message. In addition, we have in the past worked with New Milford. Their siren stations speak to our base station at the firehouse. So they are involved in this project as well. And they would be contributing a portion to this project for the replacement. But what we see here would be our contribution to the replacement of this whole system.
I noticed that in our book, it says 11,600 and you currently have it, Chris, you have currently listed as 12,600. I assume that's a correction because we have more accurate pricing.
Correct. Yeah, it was an estimate based on the original quote. We were trying to figure out what the split would be, but we worked that out. So this is the accurate number now.
Where is this in our book? I'm sorry.
A capital page. So if you turn to capital, it is the second page. On the top, it says DPW vehicles and equipment. The second grouping is parks and fields.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Any member of council have a question or comment in regards to the lightning detection system?
Just a quick question. Oh, go ahead.
I just had a general question. Carolyn, you had a 5-year plan last year. Everyone else has a 5-year plan, wondering where it is.
It didn't look like it was updated to this sheet. But it was, I mean, it was submitted, but I didn't get the chance to review it. It was in my presentation and my annual report that I had put together, and that was December.
Okay.
I'm lost. You submitted the plan to Chris and Lizette?
That was in my annual report that was sent in December when I was supposed to report on my 5-year plan for the council, which I never got to do.
So can you just take us through then generally 2023, 2024, 2025, whatever your needs are?
I don't have that in front of me right now, but all those projects are based on the grant projects that we would have submit to open space. So it would just be a holder until the grant is approved, and we pay via our open space trust and the match from the county.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm at a loss. I don't really understand, but if the rest of the council does.
There is a, I think in your packet, you have our anticipated plans for our this year submission with Brookside. But that would be for 2023. Does anybody have any other questions? I don't know what to say right now.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
No.
Have you included maintenance costs for all of our fields, including Roosevelt, for this year?
Those do not come out of capital.
Okay, but are they somewhere?
They are, yes, they're in operating, and some of it comes out of our PPFM funds that we get from permits and field usage fees.
Right, I don't want to jump ahead. We can get to that later, I guess.
All right.
So
Is there-
I have a question. So
Sure.
Carolyn, we under hockey court, the dashboard replacement, we can actually remove that, correct? Because we're gonna use the funds from the open space, correct?
Right, the exercise equipment.
Right.
Yes.
So actually,
that-
so
oh,
what
go
needs
ahead.
to be done is the exercise equipment figure of 24620 has to be adjusted to include the hockey dasher boards plus whatever ancillary project will be merged with that. So we just need to have put in a placeholder figure for that line, like remove exercise equipment and put in a higher number for the dasher boards because we don't know yet what the extra will be that Carolyn is working on.
I have a meeting tomorrow with Costa. So we'll be putting a plan together. And I also anticipate a quote from a vendor later at the end of this week with the cost of the dasher board replacement. But I don't foresee it being more than, what we already have allocated for the exercise equipment. But we will see once Costa puts his numbers together.
And what's the figure for the exercise equipment?
On the screen now, I believe. Is that not correct, Chris? What I'm seeing
Yes,
now?
yes.
Total
Right,
cost.
what is that for? What is exercise equipment?
This was
That
the
was, that was the Memorial Park outdoor fitness equipment that was changed over at Monday's meeting to be the project where we will be applying to the county to reallocate the grant towards the hockey dashers, plus whatever extra portions can be included in the project to fully utilize what the funding the county is giving us.
Okay, so other than the lightning detection system and the dasher boards, there's no other capital expenses that you're asking for this year, is that correct?
Correct. I
Okay.
don't know if, and this is a Lizette question, I don't know if Brookside needs to get put in for some of costs for this year. I don't know how that works with like the engineering items.
No, the grant writing would come out of the general engineering account, and the actual capital work would be in next year's budget.
Okay. So,
Okay. So Chris has just removed the $75,000 for the hockey court dashers. But we're leaving the 240,000 for the exercise equipment. Is that what we're doing? Is that how we're handling it?
Yes, right now as a placeholder until Carolyn meets with the borough engineer and whatever the ancillary part to include with the hockey dashers, then we'll have a more, no pun intended, concrete number before budget is introduced.
So just for the public's sake, Lizette, correct me if I make any mistakes. So this is a proposed budget where we're working. This is our second meeting. Changes can be made up until we introduce it, and I believe it can even be amended after we introduce it. Is that correct?
Yes, there are, budgets can be amended between introduction and adoption. There may be extra steps required depending on the extent of the amendments, but it is permissible.
Okay, so we're leaving this as a placeholder for now. Hopefully by the time we introduce the budget, we'll have a solid number there. And we can bring that to the council and the budget committee at a regular council meeting. We can always ask our budget committee to come. So I believe, if I understood correctly, that you're recommending that we leave all 200, Lizette, that you're recommending we leave all $240,620 there for right now.
Yes, and we'll update you of any changes. It will not exceed that amount because we can't go over what the county's allocating to us for the grant. It could be less, but we don't know how much less, but it won't be more.
Is it council comfortable with that? Ellen, questions?
Well, I don't have a question on that item. I had a follow-up question, so you can take your question first.
Any more questions on what we're doing with the budget spreadsheet? Okay, Ellen, what is your follow-up?
So my question just goes back to the 5-year capital plan that Carolyn had prepared and submitted to us and was tabled. Her presentation was tabled. So Carolyn, there is a 5-year capital plan that you had intended to present that has capital projects out through 2024, 2025. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did that capital plan that you didn't get to present have dollar figures, estimated dollar figures attached to the projects?
They did, but again, it was all, estimates that for grant purposes.
Okay.
So, it would be the match. So it's kind of like a placeholder
Yep.
Between the county and our open space trust fund.
Right. Okay. And were you asked to put those estimated dollars in the capital plan?
This year?
Yeah. Yeah. In this,
I don't
in this-
recall
during this
receiving-
budget process.
Right. I don't recall receiving any communication requesting me to send in a capital request.
Okay. Okay. That answers my question. Thanks, Carolyn.
Okay, so
Just for clarification, for the process, all departments received 2 sets of instructions. One was from our CFO with the Edmunds operating accounts. So everybody fills in their number and provide it to us. And I would input the information to generate the bulk of the book. And then the rest of the departments received an email from me stating a memo with guidelines, justification sheets in the case further information was to be presented by the departments, and capital budget spreadsheets, and that's what you see in your book as well. So there were 2 separate emails sent to all the departments on providing information to generate the documents that you have before you.
Okay, so is the council, right now, the only item, correct or wrong, is the lightning detection system and the placeholder for the exercise equipment, which is really hockey dashers and et cetera. So it's not going to be exercise equipment. Is that correct?
Correct. We could take out exercise equipment from the title.
Okay, so what we're leaving is a placeholder for hockey dasher and extra items, and the lightning equipment. Does the council wish to? It appears that we need to leave the hockey dasher in based on our last council meeting. Is the council comfortable leaving in the lighting detection system?
Yes.
Chris has a comment.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I apologize. I just see Chris's hand. Chris, do you have something to add before the council responds?
Yes, thanks. Just a question about this. Since this is an open space grant, and this is a comment, we do have an $87,000 grant that's associated with this, right? So we're appropriating 240, but 87 of it is covered by the open space grant. The question that I have is how much, if any, of our open space trust fund do we want to use to offset this purchase as compared to appropriating capital funds for it?
Lizette?
That's a governing body decision. If you want to make it, exactly the same, the 87,000 or whatever we have in the balance of our account.
Well, I think we need some guidance here. Normally, we have an open space council meeting where we go through this in detail and we look at how it's being distributed. I don't know that we can make that decision here.
Well, the intent of the open space grant moving forward, and this was enacted by my predecessor, is that trust fund needs to be used according to the statute. So it has to be used for recreation, historic preservation, or property acquisition. So we have a current balance, I believe, of $95,000 in that trust account.
Yeah, the total is 95, but only 63, just under 64,000 of that is unallocated.
Okay, so there's $64,000 plus what we would be collecting this year, which would be about 148, correct?
Correct.
All right, so are you suggesting, Lizette and Chris, that we might want to put 87,195, we want to put 100? What, give us some guidance about what would be, are we planning to, let me go back to Carolyn. Carolyn, are we planning to do something with that 67 and 100 and something? Is there a plan for that?
Not, because my understanding is that money is supposed to go towards grants. So I have not put any plans with that money for that reason. My understanding that it's supposed to, go towards whatever is allocated for the recreation department, because I know other areas also use the open space, but whatever's allocated to recreation is supposed to go towards the grant.
Okay. So does anyone from council have a suggestion or thought? Well, since the money is currently unencumbered and not dedicated to anything, I would think that we could put and since it's $141,000, which is that authorization, can we put 141,000 into that spot for the time being? Was that?
I believe so, but Chris can confirm since it's monetary.
Yeah, yes, we can. The only question that we really have on whether we should or not is if there's another project that's going to happen before next year's levy. So each year, as Lizette had mentioned, we're going to replenish this account to the tune of about $148,000. And over the last couple of years, we haven't been allocating those funds out to the departments. They've been set aside as unallocated for the purpose of grant matches. So if we have larger grants that are coming down, that we're going to need funds available to match, we might want to keep some of it aside, right? So rough numbers, 150 plus another 60, you've got about 210 that's going to be in the account for 2022, utilizing 141 of it. You'll still have about $70,000 left over. You'll replenish another 148 next year. So
actually, it's on the ballot. The renewal will be on the ballot this year. So this 148 is the only guaranteed collection. The voters have to authorize the special tax to continue.
Okay. Now, the council has also been considering and wanting to do seriously something for girls softball and the girls fields. Should we be, and KGB is being considered right now as the location, though another location may be better. I know there's been some discussion amongst the council privately about that. Should we then maybe put a matching 87,000 and leave the rest, or should we put nothing, or should we put 141,955? I call upon the council to offer, well, it's really your decision. What do you do?
Just to be clear, in last year's budget, we authorized open space funding to be the match for the KBG field project. So that's already earmarked.
So you're saying we don't need anything more for the KGB project?
As of now, we have it as a match for the grant. If something, it all depends on the DEP. If they come back with certain requirements that exceed the grant match, because that's not going to change from the county, then we will have to foot the bill for that.
Okay. So if we put the 141,955 in it at this time, this would take it out of debt services. We can always move it back. We're not obligated to use it for this. Is that correct, Lizette? I can't hear you.
Let me unmute. What I recommend doing is putting in the exact same amount as the matching grant of 87,165, since what's going on with KBG is so up in the air.
Okay. What does the council feel about that?
I think that makes sense if that's the recommendation. And we also have projects for that's need to be done for Brookside as well.
All right, so Indira has made essentially a motion. Is there a second?
What's the motion?
To put $87,165 as recommended by our BA as a in open space to match the grant of 87,165, and thus reduce the debt service to 66,290. But of course, they're all vague numbers because we don't have anything firm.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. It is open for debate. Is there debate? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there any opposed or any abstention? All right then. Is there anything else that would be addressed with rec at this time?
I have a question.
Sure.
Last year at this time, we spoke about possible video safety systems. I know that there was issues with the possible Wi-Fi in the park, and at the earlier budget meeting, we also spoke with the chief about cameras, and he's going to report back. I'm just wondering if perhaps rec needs any money for cameras that might go to the parks. Is that something that was considered and discussed?
Yeah,
Vetted?
I think that's an excellent point. Why don't we have the chief report on the cameras? We'll keep Carolyn here. And then I think your question would be in context. Are you okay with that, Councilman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Chief.
Sure. Okay, so just where we left off last time, I had a few vendors come in, put together what I referred to as the gold package, which would have covered the whole town. It was astronomical. Was well over $150,000 to $200,000. So we looked at the core of what the requests were from the Recreation Department and the library. And I got involved because I thought, you know, if we're going to be doing camera systems, one, I think it's best to have one system in the town, and two, the police department should have the ability, as long as we could and we could afford it, to be able to monitor these cameras live time, or be able to go back and look at them recorded for investigations. With that, I did find a company, and what I requested of them is really to give us a strong, I'll say, heart of a system that, knowing the potential of these things always growing, or to getting to that gold level, if you would, somewhere down the road. I had a vendor come in and he sat with me, he walked the properties, he understood what we were looking for, and he came back with a price that would cover the request of the Recreation Department, the request of the library, and also the ability to put the monitoring component of it and the recording component of it here at the police department. That price tag is, when he gave it to me a few weeks ago, was $38,000. With that, now we do know that there was money allocated for recreation, and at the time, Carolyn, just correct me if I'm wrong, but Carolyn's request was to monitor the bathrooms with anticipation of leaving them open more often than they already are. And the library was looking for an entire system, really, which would be the perimeter of the outside and the various areas inside. And as you know, I'm sure most of, not all of you know, we have had vandalism inside the library at different times. So those things are covered in this package. The money that, if I have the numbers right, and I recently went over this with Lizette, so Lizette, just jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but the money that we have in total that's allocated, I think, is somewhere around 17,000. The price tag again is 38. And the only thing I would say is it's, you know, anything I find with computers and electronics, one, when you have to wait, the price goes up. And inevitably, when you deal with cameras, as good as these companies say they are, and you have trust in them, there's always something that comes up like, oh, I didn't know you wanted to see that, or, you know, oh, in order to get that, we have to do this. So I think if we could put it over, you know, the 17 from the 38, and then make sure there's a little bit more there. If we need it, we use it. If we don't, then, you know, by all means, then we don't use it.
The 17 is for the Wi-Fi, which you're gonna need anyway, right? Or
So
did you say
Wi-Fi,
that's built
yes.
in?
Thank you for mentioning that again. So from our last meeting to this meeting, that was one thing I looked into. And the Wi-Fi is a matter of Verizon running a wire, and it's literally a couple $100 because they're under you know, federal guidelines. They can't come in and beat anybody up, is what I found out. Like most, you're gonna hear me talk about contracts later, where I honestly think we get beat up by many vendors. But Verizon is under, you know, they said, hey, no, we know the location. You gave us the address. I said, listen, you got to run a distance from a cul-de-sac. And they said, it's going to be a couple $100. So that's how we took that money then and added it to the, you know, we're able to have that nicer big number.
Thanks for taking lead on that and finding that out. The camera system you said for the memorial, that's only for the bathrooms?
Yes, and his system would be 2 cameras he recommends to cover it on 2 angles. But again, I asked and you know, I said, listen, because I know how these things go. I've seen it happen in other towns very quickly. You know, everything's going fine where the bathrooms are, and then we get some criminal mischief at the you know, the rec stand. You know, that there used to be a water fountain there. It was ripped out twice in my career here. Nice stainless steel. It was ripped out by I'm assuming the kids, and it was very expensive. We never put one back, is the point. So you know, I definitely anticipate that you know, hopefully we don't have any vandalism, but I could see that growing, you know, to where we're adding cameras, and that's what
That was my next question. It's expandable,
yeah.
easily expandable.
Yes,
the system?
that's what he's telling me.
I mean, I would be in favor of trying to figure out a couple more places in Memorial Park too, because there's often kids there late at night playing ball, hanging out in the park. Nothing wrong with that, but sometimes mischief does happen, and we shouldn't have to pay for it. So if we're going to put the money aside, I would say let's also look at some extra cameras. But
we can certainly, you know, you could do it now if you wanted to, Dario. We could add to it, but knowing that you know, you guys are talking about it being tight, we could put the heart in. Make sure that it's, you know, like I said, I think 38, I think we got to add a few thousand to it just in case it's just electronics and to make sure that we get it where we want. And then I think we can add to it, you know, going into each year. Or if you really felt you wanted to look at another target area right now, then we can add, you know, more to it. I can find out how much more cameras cost.
Okay, so now the question is, Carolyn, and the recreation budget. This is all tied in. Is there any questions for our director of recreation or the chief in regards to, would it be an additional 28,000 or additional 38,000?
I think it was 20. Well, we have, Lizette, is it 17,000?
Yes, that was what was in 2021, and then in 2020 there was 6,300 for cameras at Memorial Park. That 28,000 that you see under notes highlighted was a placeholder in order for Chief Walker to verify if there were any additional installation installation costs.
So the question I think is what, and I'm sorry, because I know we just talked about this, Lizette, but the total amount that we have on hand to deduct from the 28, was that the 17 number?
17 was included in our conversation earlier today, yes.
The amount that we have set aside for these projects in general is the 17,480 from last year for the Wi-Fi, the 1,400 and the 2,625 from last year for the cameras, and we have 6,300 from a previous year. So combined, that's 27,805 for those 4 items that we already have appropriated. If the number that we're trying to get to is 38,000, we need an additional 10,195. If you need an extra $1,000 or $2,000 in there to cover any other ancillary costs, we would just add it to the 10,195.
I would say at least, I would say no higher than 15, but I would say, I think we definitely should put a couple of thousand in there. Again, it's just, if we use it, so it's there. If not, then, I imagine Chris can take it back and work his magic.
So if the council is agreeable, we would add 15,000. Is the council agreeable? Okay, hearing,
think so.
all right, so all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstention? All right, I believe we're done with rec at this point. Is that correct?
I guess I just wanted to get some more information on the rec plans for field maintenance in the operating budget. I don't know if we're doing that at a later time or if you want.
Well, this is our second budget meeting. I don't believe we're having a third. We will be having Lizetta, we'll have an open space meeting, but if this is a budget question, it should happen now.
Okay.
But I don't believe Carolyn has that. Carolyn, do you have that information available to you? You're muted.
I have the sheets that were left in my mailbox.
I'm going to, I have to apologize. I'm going to step away from, for just a minute or two. Council President, I'm going to leave you in charge for a minute or two, okay?
Sure. So Carolyn, do you have the pages?
I believe it would involve account 375. That's an account that is used both by recreation and public works. Because that's where the ball field maintenance would be, like the clay and the chemicals.
Where would that be in the book, Lizette?
It would be in the recreation tab. Let's see. It would be the third set of accounts. The first one is for senior citizens. The next one is recreation, and then 375 is maintenance of parks.
So I'm not sure who to address this to. I just wanted to make sure that there were numbers in the budget for all the field maintenance.
Yes, the numbers are there. Some, like I said before, some of our field maintenance fees come from PPP. I'm sorry, I'm upset right now because it's Ash Wednesday and I'm supposed to be in church right now. I'm sorry, with everything going on in the world right now, it's so emotional.
All right, why don't we do this? Carolyn, you're saying the numbers are there. We'll have our BA check that and you are dismissed. Thank you for coming.
I can handle this too for her.
Good. If you could, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. As
Jason?
Carolyn, before Jason starts, as Carolyn was saying, there is a trust account for parks and field maintenance that comes out of fees. So some of the maintenance costs, if it's not assigned to one of these lines, she takes it out of that trust fund. But I leave the rest to Jason to explain.
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, so this is a shared line between me and Carolyn or the rec department. Some of the lines I use a little more, some of the lines she uses a little more. This year, just in this section, I would like to let her have a little bit more say in some of them because this is the rec department. So she did go through them with me and we did shrink it a little bit. We took the Board of Ed off, of course, on the bottom. As you see, the $2,000, since we're no longer gonna have to take care of the fields, we started doing some, I guess that was gonna be for us to do some of the maintenance on the actual grass surfaces. So with us not doing that, we've actually moved that $2,000 to the general maintenance and repair line.
Hold on one second, Jason. The Board of Ed maintenance, wasn't that for the Regal Fields? Or am I misunderstanding?
Yes, but we still do the Regal Fields. We still do the actual clay and everything. This
Okay.
was for if we took it from the school to do the blowouts, the wood chips, bandstands, and if we had to mow the grass. We are no longer, that was part not, in my understanding, that has all fallen right now aside. We do not, there was nothing that we've done up there besides the dragging of the fields and cleaning up, obviously doing all the topsoil. I mean, all the clay.
So last year you didn't do any like mowing, the Board of
No.
Ed took care of that?
Yes, Board of Ed takes care of all that because we do not
Okay.
have an agreement right now with that.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the first thing. So we moved that $2,000 to the general maintenance line and repairs. This line's used more for if the buildings in the parks, pipes go bad by the Little League building, or if any kind of water heaters or anything that's in the camp building go bad, or if fencing just falls down, we would take it out of this line, or any kind of bathroom problems, any of that stuff. So we bumped that line up a little bit because we've been having some problems with a little bit aging of the fencing and everything else that has to be replaced here and there, and some other areas that are falling apart. Grass seed, this is a line for me to get the grass seed for the year in the borough. Grass seed's not cheap. This is to do all the areas that we try to maintain the best we can without aeration because we don't have that system. Carolyn's been doing that lately I believe every fall. She's been trying to do the parks, outfields, and the main grass area in Memorial, in the center part that's dirt. I see $5,000 Carolyn added here. This is on the 183 line. This is for the middle, which the mayor talked about the other day. That does have a lot of dirt and stuff like that. That's what the 5,000 would be used for. The chemical lines are for the outfields of KBG and for the outfields of Little League only. That is to spray the chemicals to keep the weeds down and to make the grass greener. Of course, there's no sprinkler. Actually, sorry, there are sprinklers there. So this is well worth it to keep the grass green. The problem with the middle field or Memorial is that everybody has to remember there is no sprinklers there. That is under a shady area. And it does get used a lot. So this is good if we do this in the fall. I know Carolyn did it one year and it did last a little bit into the summer, but as soon as those hot months come, it's very hard without a sprinkler system to maintain green grass, no matter what you do there. Plus you have a pretty dense root base. Carolyn handles all the ball field clay. Of course, that line has not gone up at all. I'm a little worried this year with the price of everything going up from trucking to, as you can see, it was $16,000 actually used last year. The trucking cost and the actual material cost, I would actually, at this point, add another $1,000 to that. If you wanted to take 1,000 off the 5,000 and add it up top, I think, off the 183 line and add it to the 182 line to try to equal this out better. And of course, if we have to, we could buy and supply the seed, hopefully for the company to try to make it cheaper if we decide to do the Memorial Park dirt spot. Mowers and trimmers, I use that line mostly. That's a line that maintains the mowers and pretty much purchases the new leaf blowers if they go, weed whackers and things like that to maintain the parks. The flagpoles and flags, that's really town-wide. That's to replace any flagpoles that we have come down and to replace all the flags throughout town that get ripped and damaged. So that's where we're at with that. What I will do is talk to Chris after we're done here, because like I said, we're mostly intertwined here. And I want to give her a little more freedom with, especially with the general repairs line, like if she has to do something so she can get the quotes properly. She's sort of starting to know what we can fix here and what has to be called out sometimes. Of course, and the only line I really need is the trimmers line. So again, that's where we're at. Any questions?
Any other questions from a member of
Right
council?
back, Mayor.
I just had some questions about the increase for the programming, but I guess we'll have to cover that some other time.
I want to go
What
back.
was that, the increase under the senior?
Yes.
Okay, that I can cover. The main line there, the 27-360-100.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, that line is for the lease at the temple plus SCORE programming. So with SCORE not using the temple when the pandemic started, Carolyn had used some of that funding to start certain senior programming like the yoga fitness and whatnot. So since SCORE is resuming their activities at the temple, Carolyn is looking to have money to continue this senior fitness programming, as well as other monthly programs. So, so the intent is for this line to serve a dual purpose as we go back to regular activities.
Okay, so it's $8,200 that she wants to add?
That's what she had requested. Because the SCORE lease, even though we're going from, we started today, or actually yesterday, March 1st for the rest of the year, the increase, the lease did increase a bit by $1,000. So we need to maintain that amount, that line.
Okay, so what's the rest of the 41,990 then?
Yeah. So that would be 5,200 for fitness programming and 3,000 for senior programs. Like I said, I do know she started that yoga for seniors. I know at some of the parks like Cherry Blossom. I don't know what other programs she had in mind for the seniors.
Okay, but the lease is 20, right?
The lease, I do not.
For annual basis? So I guess.
It went up to 21. They increased it by 1,000.
But okay, but we don't have to pay for the first quarter, right? Isn't that?
The first 2 months. They started again in.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's about if memory serves me correct, I think it's about 17,000 for this year.
Okay, so what's the rest of the 42,000 then?
Well, we budget for the full year of the lease, and SCORE has other programming. That I guess they plan to resume their activities as they can meet in person.
Right. So Lizette, if I could ask a question, I'm sorry. So we give money, so some of this includes not just what Carolyn's asking for, but for what SCORE gets to do their own programming, correct? Is that what accounts for the additional dollars?
Correct. The 2020 budget included the lease and their programming. Only, some of it was spent because of the pandemic. We budgeted the same amount to keep that line consistent, knowing that things would eventually go back to normal. Since there wasn't anything going on with the lease at the temple, that 5,300 was spent by Carolyn for the senior programs that were offered last year.
Right, so there's money that's given to SCORE and they have their discretion to use it. There's the temple fee, and then there's additional monies that Recreation is asking for to enhance programming directed to seniors.
Correct.
Thank you.
I'd just like to go back, Jason, if you could unmute again. You had stated that you thought one of the lines was a little bit light given the current inflation rate. Can you readdress that? Which line was that? Was that chemicals or ball field clay, or was that grass seed?
So that would be the ball field clay.
Okay, which is currently $14,600.
Yes.
You feel that should go to $15,600? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I'd go up a little more. Of course, like always, the control lines, we can always help that at the bottom, total control. But yeah, I'd go up another $1,000 on that, and
Which would bring total control up too, correct?
yes, but I mean, everything doesn't have to be set. That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying it is.
Yeah.
You mentioned that and we didn't, the council didn't
Adjust.
weigh in. Hold on. Ken, go ahead.
Just a question, is that he's got 16,000 there as actual, what they just got a delivery, I believe, right, Jason, of clay this year?
Yeah, that's just to fix the fields that are down here. We've had in the last year in the flooding, especially some of Roosevelt and some of the Little League fields are starting to show Ewing in the baselines. So that's just not a fast or just a little bit of dirt to fix that. That's going to take a little bit more clay to address some of these fields due to that happening.
Well, that's why I was just thinking, like, is that something, right? Should you budget the 16.7 again next year?
Well, that was some of this.
You know,
There was a reason why that, I forgot what the reason was. I'm sorry. There was a reason why we did the fields twice up at, I believe we did the fields one time twice up at Roosevelt due to a rainstorm. I believe it was last year's IASIS. Actually, we had to do Roosevelt because it ran down the road on the field by Continental and Oak. So that's why there was an extra there.
Okay, I was just trying to, you know, if you had 1,000 and it's really the extra number, right? That's why I was figuring if you.
Yeah, but if you look the year before, it's only 5570. Last year,
Right.
you can't, that number is because of the storm. So you really can't go off that number because we tried to fix the field up there.
So is there interest? Thanks, Ken. Ken, any other statement? I kind of
Thanks,
cut you
Kenny.
off.
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Good. So is there interest in moving the number from 14.6K to 15.6K?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there any opposed or any abstention? All right. So Chris, you'll take care of that for us, right?
Yes, I'm keeping a note on a separate document.
Good. All right. So we're done with rec. We're done with OEM. We're done with the cameras. This brings us to workstations, library. We were hoping to get some more information. Can that be reduced? And what does that number mean? That's the last of my notes.
Yeah, I had forwarded the information that the library director had provided to me about what the workstations looked like and the quote that he received. Hopefully everyone received that email before our emails went haywire in the past 48 hours.
But what is the will of the council?
I don't think I got that.
Is there any way that we can see it on the screen now? Because I don't think I got it either.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
I didn't either.
I didn't either.
Okay, let me see if I could pull that on my end. Give me one moment.
Lisette, if you don't have it, I can send it to you. It did come through to me.
Ah, yeah, Ken, we were having some problems receiving and sending and even signing on to the borough. And I assume that yours went to your private account?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it was set, and she sent out pictures of what the stations look like and all that stuff.
yeah, this is the area where it's located. Hold on. These are the workstations that will be replaced. And this is the quote that Dara received. It's under state contract, so we don't have to go out to bid. And here's the description. There's 6x6 workstations with the panels. And it includes a contingency for a grand total of 14.8. What's in the budget is we rounded it up to 15,000 in the event there were any fluctuations in the price.
Okay, so the question now is, does the council wish to fund it in full, in part, or not at all?
I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone. The 15,000 sounds expensive to me for 4 desks or 4 workstations. I know it's more than just desks. We're in tough times, but I don't know. It sounds high to me. That's
I'm
all.
in agreement with you, Daria.
So do we put it off or partially funded, which would be, since hearing no other comments, that I'm assuming those are where we're moving.
I would say put it off.
I don't know. I think it doesn't seem like that expensive to, create 5 new workstations with the panels so that they can have privacy and, as Dara O'Connor said, allow for distancing. He indicated that many of these desks, and it looks like by the pictures, are decades old and may be not enough space for the work that they're doing. I don't know. I'd be inclined to fund it this year.
And again, I'm not saying that they don't need upgrades. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that $15,000 for 5 workstations means $3,000 a workstation. It sounds pricey to me. I think that, you might be able to do better at Staples, but maybe I'm wrong. And I don't know. I don't know if it's been vetted. It just sounds expensive to me for what we're talking about. But I agree, if they need it, they need it. I'm not saying no. It just seems to me that this particular price tag is high.
Well, our options, if you remember a few years back, for those of you who were with us, when the fire department came in before us for a new engine, we said to them that we thought it was a little too pricey, and they went back and reconfigured. We can leave it, we could leave the 15 or a portion or none at all, and send a request, not a request, a direction back to Dara saying, we want you to find less expensive replacement desks. So I'm just trying to list all the different options. We can just simply say, no, we're going to do it next year, or not do it next year, but consider it for next year. We could say, well, we're going to give you 10,000 this year. Do what you want with that. We could say, we're going to do the whole amount, or we could say, we want you to find a less expensive option.
Can we wait until can we make this the very last decision we make tonight?
Sure.
What we could do is, just leave it in, have Dara attend our meeting on the 14th, because in order to introduce on March 28th, our auditor needs a week lead time to prepare the state documents. So by just leaving it in and keeping it as a placeholder until we receive further information on March 14th, I believe is doable if that's the consensus of the governing body.
I'm okay with that. I'd make that motion.
It wouldn't require a motion because it's already in, but it would require, is there objection?
No.
Hearing none, that's what we're going to do. But I assume, and I just want to make sure I'm on the right page, that what we're not only asking Dara to do is justify it, but to look for less expensive options. Is that what I heard?
That would be great.
Yes.
Okay. So he's going to hopefully come with both less expensive option and how that would be better or worse, as well as a justification for the current expensive, the current choice. Sound fair?
Yes.
All right, Lizette, I'm done with my notes, so I turn it over to you.
Okay, so we've covered all of capital. So what's left is if everybody wants to go through the salary and wages or as a block, or go through every operating account that we have in the budget. And since the operating accounts have a line for salary and wages, if there are any questions, they could be raised at that time.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to say to the council that the personnel committee has met with Lizette. That would, of course, be Dario, Ellen, and I. And we were discussing some of the margins. Margins, I think, is the best word. Though correct me, Lizette, or Chris, if I'm using the wrong words, for what might be salary increases, and that we had asked for more information. And we are currently scheduled to meet just prior to the meeting of the 14th, is it, Lizette?
Yes.
So we may want to hold off on salary and wages. And you were saying, Lizette, and just look at the budgets overall. However, if the council is not interested in holding off on salary and wages, wishes to have a discussion now, it may do so. What we're going to do is what Raymond kind of ended, and I shouldn't say, I apologize by saying name. What kind of fell at the wayside after Alan Negrian left is we're going to go back to regular personnel meetings where we're going to vet these things as they arise, and therefore the council could be assured that we've looked at it thoroughly and in depth. So this is no one's fault at all. It's just the process that we're currently working on and the new process we're moving towards. If the council is interested in talking about salary and wages, of course we will. If the council is simply looking at the overall budget of each department, we can do that. If the council is satisfied, having done their own review of the book, which we've had now for about 5 days, and has no questions, well, then we're pretty much done with the budget. But perhaps it would be better if we just went department by department and asked for questions. Is there any objection to that plan? All right, Lizette, the first budget would be administration.
Yes,
correct?
that is correct. That's account 100.
So does any member of council have a question, clarifying question, probative question in regards to 100?
Administration also includes and labor, which is not labor, but legal, which is 155, engineering, which is 165.
Economic development, which is 174, historic sites, which is 175, and shade tree, which is 302. Just helping out to move us along.
Why do we still have lines for zoning attorney in there? And it's just zeroed out. Why not just take it out?
I wish I could. Once there's activity in it, you can't get rid of it. So on our current budget, you can't see it, but because you're looking at a 5-year history, it's going to be there.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
I just wondered how everyone is feeling about Historic Commission. They're asking for an increase to set up a website. Wondered if we wanted them to just stick to the prior year budget or or move it up. It's 201-201-75187.
They want a website separate from the borough website, or is that what they want?
They're trying to set up a website for all the historic information that they collate so that it's accessible to everyone on the outside. And then they have money for their person who inputs all that data in the first place, and it's all just going into one computer right now. And then also money if they're going to be coming to get a house certified as historic.
So they're using a website outside of the borough website.
Correct.
Have they always been doing that?
No, this is a new thing they want to
Okay.
do. Again, they archive a lot of information.
Right.
And it's just on one computer in the library basement, so no one can ever really see it. So it's to make that more public.
Well, why can't they
Did they
move
use our
our
website?
website?
I think they need a very specific kind of software to do that. It's Omeka, yeah.
And it will work on our platform?
I think it's totally separate, right? Claudiana, have they been discussing it?
Oh, this is new to me.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Are they ready to launch it, or could it get pushed off to next year? Like, are they ready?
I'm not sure.
Why don't we remove it and
Well,
ask them? and then-
Actually, I'm going through my old emails, and let's see. It was the yearly usage fee for this website is $75. So I think it is setting everything up initially.
This looks like a Blogspot type website to me. Maybe they don't know that we can include them in our town website. Maybe we just need to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, and also in going through the email, it also includes the archivist time to set it up. It's about 10 hours to set it up. So that would be $75 plus $350. And they may have already started it because they have their temporary budget. And since everything's lumped into only one account, this process might have already started. They were looking to start it before April, but I don't know if they initiated anything yet.
So this is an increase of about a little less than $1,000. Is that not correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
about $800.
What does the council think for $800? Leave it in, not?
I would leave it in,
Yeah,
however,
let them do it.
I'd have another conversation with them about whether it can be put on the town's website instead. Because it just seems odd that it wouldn't be linked in some way, so.
So could we ask both Councilwoman Molinari and Ms. Apertola to both have conversations with Historic? Because we really should keep everything on one platform if at all possible.
I don't think it can be because I think it's very specifically made for historic data.
But then we would link it to our.
Yeah, that's easy to do. That's easy to do. Yes.
Then do we want to put Claudiana and Lizette through the trouble of having that conversation if you're relatively certain about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. And again, we can link it very easily.
Then Councilman Kanigo, would you like to withdraw your recommendation given what Council President Kaufman has said?
Sure.
All right, let's move on. Any other questions in this? How do we call this? Is this a department group? What is
Yeah.
it?
Yes, it's a department group.
Any other questions in the department group? We're going to move on. If somebody wants us to go, we can absolutely do that. Our next would be the Borough Clerk, which is Mayor and Council 110, Public Information 101, and Clerk 120.
Yes, I drafted this budget before Anne came on board. I reviewed it with her, but if you have any questions, I'll field them since I generated the information. I tried to clean up a lot of lines and redundancies, as well as some lines would historically go over, others would be under, and it was just certain things weren't allocated properly. So we're trying to centralize as much as possible.
Can you just, just review what the control total means?
The control total is the final amount, the balance of the entire account. Each line item is a portion of that account. So if one line goes over, but another line is under, as long as all the costs are absorbed, we cannot go over a control total. In the event we are short, then that is when you see resolutions for budget transfers that start in November and December and carry on over for the first 3 months of the new year.
And that, of course, limits the next year's budget, correct?
It could be one-shot anomalies, but if it's something that you see transfers for a certain account over and over again, then that account has to be reevaluated for funding.
Okay. I see that we have TV meetings, 6,000, 6,000, 6,000 for several years coming. Last year, we only used 2,775. Is the reason we're maintaining it at 6,000?
I believe that is to provide compensation for the recording of meetings when they're in person.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the genesis is and what has been spent over the course of time. Last year and the year before was buying all the hardware that that our council president has coordinated and had installed in order for us to hopefully run live without a hitch on the 14th.
Well, this is the reason I'm bringing it up. That's what I assumed it was. And last year we spent 2,775. Year before that, we spent 683. So in the last 2 years, we've only spent about 3,300, yet the line is still at 6,000. Perhaps we should reduce it. What's your feeling with that as BA?
On this, I defer to our council president since I don't know what the exact history is or what the needs will be moving forward once we're recording in person.
I don't know, but it's a new system, right? And we haven't used it before. We have never used it, so.
I recommend keeping it and seeing what the expenses are this year, and then we'll adjust it for next year and base it on actuals.
Is there any objection to that suggestion? Hearing none, let's move forward.
So then 120 is the municipal clerk's line. If there are no other questions, then we jump into the finance department accounts.
Yeah, I apologize. My camera just keeps going on and off.
Don't worry about it, Jason. I know that's happening to you. Don't worry. Is there any comment or question about this department?
The one we're looking at the screen is not what we're actually talking about now, right?
That's right.
No, it's not.
What page are we on?
We're somewhere around page, I'm on page 16 and I'm moving through. 16.
finance has several accounts. It starts from 130, financial administration, audit. And then we have, it jumps to 410, prior year bills, salary adjustment. And then budgeted grants, chapter 159, and then the reserve for uncollected taxes.
The red. What?
I'm okay, no questions.
Anyone else? DPW. I think we should cut Jason's budget.
I did have a question.
I'm only joking, Jason.
Cut away.
What question, Michelle?
About the cleaning.
Give us a reference, Michelle,
1 second. It was on page 72.
of the DPW.
You mean
Yes.
that's the 290 lines?
1 second.
Cleaning would be 290.
310-187, the cleaning contracts.
That's,
Increased by 16.15%, 71,912. Is that what you're referring to?
That's exactly. I just wanted to make sure, do we actually need that amount? Because we used less than that last year, but I know it was COVID.
We
time.
went out to bid on that, so that's based on the contract. And
so another thing is that line's used also for recreation. That's part of the contract that we did go out and get, that we awarded. So when she has events in the park, she adds events, takes away events. They do go in the bathrooms, they clean them all out, they clean the bathrooms during the event. So with the contract, new terms, and with recreations programs that are, you know, she can go up with them, down with them. That's the number that we came out with.
Okay.
Jason, can I ask you about I think it's the next page, Fire Chief car. It has been running under 1,000 and you bumped it to 2,400. That's 315-178. Page 75.
15178. So that's under mechanics.
Yeah, so 26-315-178.
Get there, 178. So if you look, Mayor, this is an area, if you look down at fire chief's vehicles and cars, you'll see below it, it says 2 deputy chief's vehicles. It says mechanic. Pretty much what me and Chris talked about is we're starting to consolidate the lines a little more.
I'm good.
We don't need the mechanics for both lines.
No problem. That's good. I just wanted an explanation. I'm good.
Ken, you have a question?
Yeah, just on staying on that same page, if you go up to the line item 175 for the
Okay,
tires, double the cost this year, but I didn't know if that was part of your consolidation, Chris, or if it's just every truck needs something.
if you look under senior bus where it says note, it says move 315 to 173.
Got it.
You see what I'm saying? So there's some of them moved. You'll see recycling tires that got moved to DPW tires. There was no sense to have 2 lines for DPW trucks. So we're trying just to consolidate that down when you're talking with finance and stuff.
Okay.
Can we, there's probably no answer to this. BCUA, O&M, and debt service. We have more money in there. I'm assuming the 2% is simply the placeholder we're putting until we hear from them.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
nothing in today's mail.
yeah, and I see Paramus is the same 2%. Just wanted to confirm with that. Okay, I'm ready to move to police department. I don't want to rush people if they're not ready. All right. So let's take a look real quick at the police department. I know that many of us have spent time looking at it, if not all of us. but this is a new experience for some of us. Chief or Lizette or Chris, just to, I noticed the civilian full-time goes from, in 2020, it goes from 283,000. 2021, it goes to 97,000, and I'm rounding, of course. And then the budget is now 294. Can we just have a little explanation of that one? That would be control line 25-240-03 and 04.
I can explain that. It actually, if you look at the civilians full-time line, which is the 003 line, and the superiors full-time line 001 to above it, you'll see that they kind of move in tandem. That was because the chief's position last year was a promotion from a superior, and we didn't have a full-time chief at the time the budget was done. So the full chief salary was in the superiors line for last year, and this year it's in the full-time. So they move together.
Okay. Chief, I see your hand up. Do you want to chime in on something?
I just, I have just a couple things that I needed to change real quickly.
Go ahead.
So, Chris, on maintenance contracts, line 105. That needs to go to 75,000.
What page are you on?
He's now, I believe, on page.
Is it 42?
No.
42.
That's what it. That's what I have in front of me. 42.
You're saying 240-175?
Yes. No, 105.
10. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay. And you're saying that's going from 69,447 to
Right. 75. And then 240-170 at the bottom.
Yeah.
We're going to make that 0.
Chief, is the number for the crossing guards adequate?
So that's, I'm going to go off of what the mayor mentioned earlier. I didn't get a chance to speak last time when we started to dabble in wages and salaries, but I'm getting the feeling now that we're going to save that for a personnel meeting. And I will be looking for an increase with dispatchers and crossing guards for the hourly rate. I don't know that it's going to be a huge number. Certainly that's, Chris will be the one to determine the impact in more detail. But I don't know if you want me to bring that up now or if you want to wait till the personnel subcommittee meeting.
I think if you can send a memo to Lizette or come to the personnel committee meeting,
Sure.
speak to that. And Jason, we would want you to come to the personnel meeting and speak to anything that Lizette might want us to speak to. Go ahead, Lizette.
Yeah, I just I had those notes in the office. I thought the personnel committee was meeting after the council meeting of the 14th, not before, unless you want to schedule.
Dario, can you make it before? Ellen, can you make it before?
I should be able to make it before.
Because the in-person
Give me 1
council
sec, let me
meeting
take a look.
is at 7.
Chris, I have one other change.
Yeah, I can make it before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How early, Dario? How early, Ellen?
About 6:30, half hour. Is that enough?
Yeah,
I think we might need a little bit more. Is it possible you can do 6? No?
Yeah, okay.
I could be, yeah, between 6 and 6:15, but
All
I'll attempt for 6.
All right, let's do 6:15. That way, we'll say 6:15, okay? Lizette, can you make that change?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chief.
So one other change, Chris, I'm sorry, on line 240180. Make that 7,000. Thank you. Now, I'm just gonna take questions from you guys, I assume.
Why is that one changing?
The last one.
Yes.
So what I'm looking to do is we're part of that LISO program, which is where we get free product from the federal government. And I really kicked that off in the last year with Officer Preisendorf and who's my other guy? Officer Petersky. And they become pretty aggressive with it. So as an example, since we started getting aggressive with it, we've been able to acquire over 300 items. Now, some of these things we wouldn't be, I wouldn't be looking for you to pay for at all because it's, you don't really need it, but we're able to get it for free. So a lot of these things are just a great addition for many, many reasons that I could go into for a while. So we've obtained $284,000. And that's a federal value that they put on the items that we received, over 300 items. So that 2,000 is, my guys will go down to Virginia, they'll go to Pennsylvania to get things, but some things we can get mailed to us, and it's cheaper than the manpower. So I'd like to have $2,000 because of freight and see what that does for us. I think this program is going to it's going to even become bigger. We watch our neighbor in Oradell, and you're allowed to sell these things, interestingly enough, after a year. Everything's legal, but they've run with it even further than us, and we're watching them and learning from them. And on our part, again, we've acquired some great things. Only a couple of you, I know Indira, I showed our truck. I want to do an unveiling of that. Jason's been great fine tuning it, but we were able to obtain a high water vehicle that's priced at $125,000. That we put a couple thousand into it, and we're gonna learn. The guys are gonna learn how to use it. But going forward, you guys remember the last storm where we were using a bucket loader, which I can't thank Jason enough for talk about teamwork and improvising and adapting and overcoming. We did whatever we have to, but this vehicle will be multi-purpose for high water, for command scenes where we can put things in the back. If you want to take a look at it, it's at Coachworks, Kinderkamak. They let me house it over there right now until we get it completely where we want it, and then we're going to, I think the mayor said we could park in front of his house. So
absolutely. And then after I get divorced, you can
just as an example, it's an unbelievable program, and I'm glad we're really running with it. So that 2,000 is it's for getting things shipped, and it's a kind of a guinea pig this year. I want to see what it will do. I'm hoping it takes care of manpower for me, so we don't have to go send somebody. We don't go further than Virginia. Really, we go to PA most of the time. So the guys are going a couple hours out, a couple hours back. I'm doing it with no overtime, but I still might owe them time. So that's what that 2,000 is for.
Chief, I was just wondering, item 182, why is that one going up so much at the bottom of the page?
182.
It's the U.S. Traffic Other Gen Group, 201, 25, 240, 182. It's on the screen.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking down at my notes too. So that is because we have one of the dues, which is a little bit of money because that takes care of the traffic officer. But the other thing is all of these signs that we have now, which includes, I sent that email back. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Who grabbed it,
thank you. Sorry.
but all the solar panel signs, the batteries go on those, interestingly enough, and we have to pay for the batteries. And also, I noticed down the south end, we have those pedestrian flasher signs. Now, those aren't pedestrian operated crosswalk signs. These are pedestrian flashing signs. So those need repair, and the repairs on these things, once you hit the repair area, it's not cheap. But we have them there. So I want to, I'm hoping that's enough to repair those signs so that they work. And then I think that line could come back down next year to really just start covering, hopefully just batteries. Because we're going to add, Jason and I were talking about it before. I think we're adding another 14 pedestrian operated crosswalk signs, hopefully within the next year or so. So, what comes with new things is upkeep. And I don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball and all of a sudden we don't have money for the batteries and things like that. So that's the increase there.
Okay.
Also for the solar panels, it's not just the batteries, the solar panels
Yes.
are getting old too. So as soon as the solar panels get over the 5 to 7 year range, they have to sometimes get replaced. So that will be used with that. Sorry, Chief.
No worries. Thank you for supporting that.
So is that product a good product? Like, is there a better option or?
I don't think there is. I think that that's just, the life of these batteries are 3 to 5 years. And I just think that's how they run. I don't think we can get away from solar power. That's what gives us the ability to put them where we want, unless you're going to start, digging and putting power lines in. And I think that's antiquated at this point. It's just the upkeep. And I don't think it's a huge number in the long run. We're going to have to wait and see what these solar panels do. Hopefully the life expectancy on them is a lengthy amount of time. And it's just batteries. That's what I'm hoping. It's just batteries and a tweak here or there for something that actually breaks more than the average.
Just so you guys know, the batteries do not last. We're in a region where it can get to 7 degrees. It's a battery. It's not a battery in your car that's always getting started either. So it's a battery that sits there. It's a deep cycled battery, but it's a battery that just sits sometimes flat. Nobody will hit the flasher for days if it's cold outside. So you have cells and all that. But the other thing is this also helps Mike with knockdowns with the poles. Sometimes we have to wait for insurance companies to come and give us the insurance and all that stuff to get reimbursed. So this helps us out, get the pole back up relatively fast.
Thank you.
Shall we move on?
I just have one quick question about Chief, just for a little bit up. What's the account that's 240-178? What does that consist of?
Vehicle other, yeah. So there's an increase there because what I've noticed is, we have, unfortunately, and actually I don't think it's that bad, but we generally have at least one car a year that gets into an accident. And we have to cover the deductible for this. And deductible was coming from nowhere. So I put it in that line. It's deductible's about $2,500. And then it's just, the car washes also comes out of that line, and the car washes went up. And we do a good job at the car washes. We used to do them every single Friday. And now you leave it up to the officers. Most of them are clean. I mean, the officers are clean, so their cars stay clean. So that's the increase there. Good pickup on that.
Thanks,
Any other questions for the police budget? Fire department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I had just one question, Lisa. I know we were going back and forth about this earlier. Line 201, 25, 255, 043. Shouldn't that be zeroed out since it got moved? Because I thought it got moved.
Yeah, I believe so. That just might have been a duplicate entry. I don't have any notes on that. And there hasn't been any expenses in the last 2 years, so that can be removed.
Okay.
Chris, will you take care of that?
Yes, I'm updating it on my end.
Thank you. Fire department.
The other question I had, Greg, Chief Caridi, garage supplies, 201-25-255-030. The number you're asking for this year is less than what you spent in 2021. Is that gonna work?
I think we should be okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions about the fire department? We can go back if we need to.
Mayor, can I just ask a general question?
Absolutely, please do.
I know last time, and I know we've added some things, maybe deleted some things, but can Chris, just for clarification, give us a recap again of where we stand at this point? Like, I know it's 100 and I want to say 48 roughly, or 149 that we need to save $39 or whatever the final numbers were, and versus if we can find revenue, which we all know we don't have any more revenue.
So you want to go, you want him to give you the annual increase for the average resident?
Yeah, what we need to target here, right? Because we're talking about $3,000 and $5,000 items when we need to save $149,000 to save $30.
Yeah, no, we're not necessarily trying to save money in this process.
No, I know that.
We're trying just to make sure that that we properly vet the budget and ask questions as needed. But I think you have a good point. Chris, where are we with the annual increase for average residents?
Between all the items that we just changed, we reduced the budget by $17,359. Now, I also have a placeholder here to reduce the budget for capital improvement fund by about $25,000. Now that we've gone through that, $25,000 a fair number. It still gives us a little bit of wiggle room in case we need to do an ordinance later in the year. So the total reduction is $42,359. That reduces $11.16 off of the average increase, bringing it down to $58.22. Now, as a disclaimer here, and we did find a couple of items last year after this process. You know, we already mentioned BCUA. We might get a new number for that. The parameters number might come in a little bit higher as well. Also, what I do before we introduce the budget and before I send over everything to the auditors, I import all this information back into our live system so that I can see how we're tracking for this year. So if I find, you know, the items that I expect that I would be more common, that I would see a trend that would require us to increase the budget would be on something like utilities, or anything like that. If we have rate increases and price increases that fluctuate month to month. So I will do that, and then I'll report back if there's any anomalies that would require us to make any modifications at that point.
So it's fair to say that we're bringing the budget in around $60 to the average resident.
As of right now, we're at $58.22. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Is there any questions about the OEM budget? Any clarifying or probing questions about OEM? 252. Oh, I'm sorry. Were we done with the fire department? I assumed we were. Okay. We're in OEM now. A short budget, so we can absolutely go back if I'm going too fast. Why don't we move to rec for those who are with us? And I know Al and Ken are keeping us on our toes. So if you, Ken, if you want to continue to chime in, or Al, if you want to chime in on anything, let us know. Okay. Assuming that we are all moving at the pace I'm moving, and if not, please tell me to slow down. We're up to fire prevention, 265, and that's uniform safety fire. Any clarifying or probing questions? Now we're up to the assessor. Again, if I'm going too fast, slow me down, which is 150 tax assessment. Okay, moving to land use, 180 and 185 for zoning board, which is really land use. Okay, we're up to construction code enforcement. So I do have a question at this point. Lizette, how many hours is Artie doing?
On average, 20 a week.
Okay. Is that sufficient?
It fluctuates. The average is 20. It all depends on court activity. If he has to attend court to provide testimony, if anyone is challenging a summons.
Mhm.
But he's busy. He's keeping up with the work. He hasn't come before me. Neither has the construction official to indicate that additional hours or manpower is needed.
Okay, good. Again, if I'm going too fast, slow me down. We're up to the health department, 330 and 340, public health service and animal welfare. Okay, we're up to the library now. We've had some discussion about the library in general already. Is there further discussion about the library's budget? All right. Municipal court, 275, 490, and 495, which is prosecutor, municipal court, and public defender.
Do we know when they're gonna go back in person?
That's determined by the judiciary.
Okay. I just wanted to point out, I don't know if they'll be able to do this or not, but line item 201, 43, 490, 168. Lisette was telling us that they now use an automated app for translation. And maybe they'll be able to still use that even when they go back in person. It's state approved.
Yep.
And it saves a lot of money. So maybe we won't need that 5,000 in future years. It could be lower.
And it also saves time, if somebody needs a translator for a certain language and that translator, for whatever reason, can't make it, then they can't hear that case that day. But with the app, it covers all the approved languages by the judiciary.
Okay, that is 5,000. Why don't we reduce it to 2,500? Because we're pretty much, they're not going back before June for sure. Do we wish to do that? Is that recommended by our BA and CFO?
The only note that I would make on that is if we do end up having to go back and we do have to increase it, you'll save the 2,500 this year. You'll have to increase your budget 2,500 next year.
So wait a year?
if you wait a year, you'll know for sure whether whether they go back to in person, and B, if they do go back, they continue to use this software.
That sounds right to me. What does the council think? Leave it the way it is. I see nods. Okay. This is great. We're coming to the end. In municipal court, we just finished insurance, 210, 215, 220, 221, 225, 260, 335, 471, 478. Any questions in regard to insurance?
One thing I didn't ask before, the optional excess, we're getting rid of that, 201, 23, 210, 174.
Yeah, why are we doing that?
So that's been budgeted since before I started, and we've never had an expense out of that account.
Okay.
So I figure we have 4 years of history of not spending it. Time to get rid of it. That was my only rationale.
Do we know why the budgeted under 090 went up?
That's actually we get the bill directly from the JIF. So that's just our premium for this year.
What's the volunteer accident, 210, 169? Said it was 17,531.
So we have a bunch of policies with the same insurance provider. I believe it's starts with an O. Somebody knows the name of it.
Otterstedt.
Thank you.
Ezio.
That it's one policy. So if you look at the 25,000 budget for flood insurance, that we only spent 5,000, but we spent 17,000 in the volunteer accident. I think it was just an allocation issue. The volunteer accident is for literally for our accidents for volunteers. So that was charged here and not here. So it's all one bill that we get. And I'm not sure that there's an allocation. I'll have to talk to Gita about it to see if it's broken out on our bill or if it's a premium for all of our individual policies, since it's coming from the same insurance provider. But in aggregate, they're all consistent with what they've been last year. It's just a matter of making sure the charges get put to the right spot.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Okay, we're moving on. I believe we're up to utilities.
As I mentioned before on these, this is one that I'm going to take a closer look as we get closer to introduction, and I'll do a trend analysis to see how we're comparing to the previous years, to see if we have increases in any of these lines that may be due to market fluctuations.
All right, unless I'm going too fast, we're up to contingency. 470, 870, 875.
Can I just go back, I'm sorry, to
Sure.
telephone 440? Do we
So
really
we're-
still pay separately for like long distance plus cable plus, I don't know, it just seems like it's so different than what we do in residential telephone and cable service. It could just be because it's not, but we're paying $6,000 for long distance service and then $28,500 for regular telephone service. I don't know.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get to that page. Here we are. I honestly, I think that those accounts were named that a long time ago, and they carried over, and we just continue to charge the same accounts. I think we can probably do a better job renaming them and making them a little bit clearer. we're not getting separate bills for long
Right,
distance.
okay. I wanted to make sure, because if we were, boy.
Yeah, I'll review that with Geeta as
Okay.
well when we go through these utilities and we look at current costs.
Okay, that's super. Thanks a lot.
Chief?
Yeah, just on that note, only because I was involved with the phones quite a bit between the cell phones and the landlines. When I got involved with the landlines, specifically bringing the new phones over here and troubleshooting the borough side, Geeta and I would discuss the bills because there was a time period when we were going through the new system and we're still paying the old system. There's a little overlap. So we worked at that. But what we did find is that the bill has many different lines that we kind of scratch our head about. So I got in touch with corporate and put a request, and this is just about 2 weeks ago. And they're supposed to be able to give me an explanation of each of these various lines, if you would, because some of them we don't believe that we're using anymore. Now I'm talking, some of them are 200, 300, 400, some of them are a little more, a little less, but nonetheless, it's probably a 70-page bill, and we thought we'd clean it up, so we're in the process of doing that. I don't know what huge impact it'll have on this, but it's worth it cleaning it up. Geeta and I are kind of working on that.
That's great, Chief. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're on contingency and then debt service.
Chris, where are we on our cap banks?
So once we get through this process, I'll be filling in all the levy cap worksheet, the budget cap worksheet, and we'll see where we are as far as just in general cap calculations. I can get you the cap bank numbers. I'll pull them up on the screen in a minute if you'd like. That's just it's actually a report directly from the state that tells us what we have available. So I'll just pull up the state website and we can go through that real quick.
I know it's really early because we have a lot of numbers to get still for capital, but.
Well, are we talking about capital, like what our capital improvement fund's going to be, or cap bank as in what are we raising in the operating budget that is in and outside of caps?
Oh, I was just asking, we used to see the cap bank numbers for how much extra we have in the savings bank if we needed it, that number.
Okay, I'll pull that up on the screen.
While he's doing that, Lizette, don't we need to do a ordinance or resolution for the cap bank?
Yes, the auditor prepares that once he has all of this data.
Now, isn't there two choices, like the high number and the low number? 3.5,
you could raise, yeah, you could raise it up to 3.5. Every municipality
3.5,
exercises
even though we don't use it. Are we intending on doing that this year?
Yes, that is common practice.
Okay.
And it's something that, over the course of time, if you don't use it, you end up losing it. So there's no
Yeah, but it creates a cushion for emergency.
Yes, exactly.
And we historically have not really used all that much of it. All right.
Mayor, I have a question on their utilities, on the sanitation landfill, Bergen. I know everything has.
I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about that, Lisa. Let's just let Chris focus on this and then we'll go back to that. Is that
okay? Sounds great.
So this is straight from this state website. The total available, we're actually 357,000 expiring this year on our levy cap. We've got 410 from 2020, and we've got 320 from 2021. So we've got about 730. Now, that's not to say that we're going to use it or going to need it, and it will expire if we don't use it, but that's what's available in your levy cap.
Michelle, does that satisfy you? You have a follow-up question?
That's great, thank you.
All right, now to Lisa's question.
Mayor, so I'm still under the utilities is the last account 465,124. I know everything has gone up, but it's 360 from 258 on 2021.
But the
What is the
actual spend was a lot higher. If you see the lines underneath, it was
316, yeah.
plus 65, right? Chris?
That's correct. And these are for tipping fees. And those, you know, we can probably talk about that for an hour, but they're not getting lower. So this is, you know, 360 is, you know, what we're estimating it's going to be based on how it had started increasing towards the end of last year. You know, when we introduced our budget, we were on track to hit that 258 number. And by the end of the year, we ended up spending 316,000. So we're just trying to build into this budget what it could potentially rise to based on the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022.
Chris, do me a favor for the public's benefit, not for, I think the budget committee pretty much knows, as well as the council. And just explain, take not more than a minute, but just explain tipping fees. So the public, if they're wondering what we're referring to, they can understand it.
So there's a rate that's set per ton for the amount of garbage that we're throwing out, and we get billed by that based on that tonnage. So that tonnage rate has been increasing. In addition to that, more people are home, more people are throwing out their garbage at home. So we're picking it up and getting charged more for it. So it's, you see the trend, you know, if we spent 229 last year, 316 in 2021, it's a problem that every municipality is facing right now throughout the state.
Yeah. So for the public's benefit, what we're really saying is the garbage they put on the curb, we pay by tonnage fees, and the tonnage fees goes up. So as people throw things out, we're part of what the municipality provides through local property taxes is the disposal of that. Because in other states, people contract directly with the garbage company, but in New Jersey and in River Edge, we contract for the public, and this is what it costs to get rid of our garbage.
And you don't have to drive it to the local landfill or the local disposal facility.
All right. Any other questions on anything else in the book? Hearing none. Lizette, what do we have further business?
No, the remaining business involves the library director to justify the workstations and advise if he could obtain these items at a lower cost, and for the personnel committee to review the salary and wages portion and advise if there are any changes there. And then those are the only two borough-related items. The other outstanding items involve whenever we get the BCUA bill and what the trends analysis is. But we look like we're in good shape by mid-month for Chris to provide the information to our auditor, and the auditor could generate the state documents, and we can introduce in time with the state deadline before March 31st.
Okay. Now, just for the benefit of the council, the committee, and the public, the current items that the personnel committee is going to review and that the director of the library is going to advise us on are already built into the budget.
Correct.
And we have put in a cushion to get rid of our waste products, our sewage, which is BCUA and Paramus. And that's a 2%. So if it comes in, if the bill we get from Paramus, Hackensack, and from Bergen County Utility Authority, which is our waste or sewage, comes in at or below, then the number we have will remain or decrease. But if those numbers come in above, then the number of $58.22 for the average homeowner would go up. Is that correct? Chris?
Correct, yes.
All right. So so we're doing a pretty good job. And I want to congratulate the council and the committee, as well as Lizette and Chris, as well as all of our department heads and chiefs for doing a phenomenal job. Ken and Al, do you guys have any closing words?
No, sir, I'm all square. Thanks again for having me.
All right, Al?
Can't find the mute button. No, I thought you did a nice job this year. There are obviously a couple things that always perk somebody's attention, but it looks pretty good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the council or those department heads who are still present? Why don't we go to department heads first? Jason, Chief Caridi, and Chief Walker. Any comments that you'd like to offer?
I'm good, Mayor. Everybody did a great job and everybody's being as fiscal responsible as possible.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, Mayor, it was great working with the other department heads and Lizette to get this done. We always got to work together and always everything's intertwined. And Chris is always there when we need a lot of financial advice by if we could do this stuff or not. So it worked out good as a team. So proud of everybody.
Great.
I echo all that. Again, I really appreciate the teamwork by everybody. It's impressive.
And Ed, your department head, the clerk's office, do you have any comment or anything you want to add?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And Lizette, any closing comments?
We have a remarkable staff, the department heads and their support staff. And, you know, we all work together and these are trying times, unstable times, but, you know, we have open lines of communication. We know where to find each other if we need something. And, you know, we're always looking out for each other's best interests and more importantly, the best interests of the borough at large.
Michelle, you're our finance chair. Any comments?
I don't think there's anything to add. Everyone has said it all.
All right. Any other member of council wish to offer
Thank
a
you for
comment?
everyone's help and yes.
Sorry, I cut you off. I apologize. Okay. Any other member of council? All right. So, oh, I should have waited. Any other member of council? Okay. So, Lizette, I think now is the time for me to call for adjournment. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I have a muscle relaxer with my name on it.
All right. All in favor, you can have a motion in a second.
So moved.
Oh, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Any objections? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, everyone, and good night. Great job.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Night, everybody.